Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to Excellency episode 44. We are pleased to have you all here today with us on the session on insider trading regulation, which is a very crucial regulation. To set the context and give us an introduction of today's topic, I'm pleased to invite Mr. Huzeifa Unwala to take us through the opening of the session. So, over to you, Huzeifa, sir.
Thank you, Dipika, and a very warm welcome to Parag, our expert faculty of the day. Thank you for joining us, Parag, and a warm welcome to all the participants in the 44th Excellencia episode. It's a very interesting topic. This topic is one topic that is generally seen in a lot of headlines in the newspapers. Even a single insider trading incident that happens any part of the world or the country, it flashes in the top headlines of newspapers. It's a sensational topic as far as investors are concerned, capital market authorities are concerned, and even audit firms and auditors are concerned. So very happy that we have picked up this topic for the day and invited somebody who is a notable authority on the subject, has authored a book as well. So before we introduce and invite Parag and also CS Dipika, who's going to give a small talk around the topic after our expert faculty has completed his share of discussions. Uh, to set the context, let me share with you a couple of slides that are prepared to set the context, and then we'll invite the faculty members. So generally in market parlance, money or rupees or value in the bank account is considered as the most valuable asset that one can have to trade in the capital markets. But that is not true in case of what we are discussing about insider trading and front running. Any valuable information that one possesses becomes more valuable than the monetary balance that one carries in the bank account. So information is the most valuable asset in capital markets, and it's not money. Information alone drives capital markets, and we have seen the ups and downs basis certain formal, informal information that circulates in the capital market corridors. And the moment privileged information becomes an unfair advantage, investor trust in the market begins to erode. So today we are going to discuss everything around the subject of the privileged information, confidential information that insiders have, and what are the uses and abuses that are done in the capital markets around this subject. There are three, four mega trends that have emerged globally and in India. First, there is a tipper and tippy network. It means that someone is an insider and then he will whisper in the ears of a best friend, an associate, a relative, etc. And basis that whispering, trades are executed in an unfair manner. So there is a price advantage that someone carries with him or her before the news is announced in the market. Now, global statistics have revealed that mergers and acquisition leakage, information leakage is the biggest uh, avenue where insider trading is done. That just before a M&A announcement is done, to perk up the valuation numbers, there is an information leak that happens. And almost 8 to 9% of live global M&A deals are suspected insider trade transactions. There are global surveys that have proved this statistic. Uh, with the advent of social messaging platforms, encrypted messaging platforms like WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal, disappearing messages, people believe that passing on privileged information on such encrypted channels will protect them, but however, it does not. And we'll hear it from our experts today. And then there is a concept of shadow trading. So, in economically linked businesses, so one may not be a part of the main primary business, but is associated with a lot of other economic activity, maybe a supplier, vendor, customer, a third party and carries the privileged information and uses and abuses it. So these are the 3 4 mega trends that are emerging as far as insider trades are concerned. With the adoption of AI and related technology, there is a lot of intelligence that has been added by regulatory authorities, by investigation agencies, surveillance monitoring agencies. So millions and billions of data records are being uh, pushed into AI engine models to detect abnormal trading behavior before, during, and after key events that are going to be announced in the capital markets, like a merger and acquisition is there, or a demerger is there, or acquisition of a new company is concerned, and so forth. Communication, data warehouse, metadata are being analyzed in the form of emails, messages, files to uncover hidden connections and information flows that could lead to suspected insider trading patterns. Call records, digital footprints, and relationship mapping of insiders are being regularly being done by market authorities, regulatory authorities. So what once took years to investigate, now it is being done in a matter of days or even hours. So the key question here is, if regulators reconstructed every email, every message, every call, and every trade, would you still be comfortable defending your actions? So clearly the answer is known to us now, that there is no place to hide. With this, I will hand over the session to my colleagues, and I will also introduce our speakers of the day. So let me start by introducing Parag. Can we please have his introduction on the screen? Thank you. Parag Adhiya is a chartered accountant and founder of InsiderTrade.AI, a SEBI PIT RegTech Intelligence platform. With over 24 years of experience, he brings extensive expertise across assurance, risk management, and governance. He has held leadership roles at Grant Thornton and Deloitte, advising organizations on risk-based internal audit, control assessments, compliance, governance, SOX readiness, particularly across financial services and regulated sectors. His focus includes insider trading compliance, uh, unpublished price sensitive information, risk, regulatory intelligence, and technology enabled risk management. He is also the author of Insider Trading in the Age of Surveillance and regularly shares practical perspectives on strengthening compliance and governance frameworks. He is a sought after speaker on this subject, and we are privileged to have him with us. And I would request you to follow him on his LinkedIn handle also, where he regularly publishes a lot of interesting case studies on the subject of insider trading. With this, I would welcome Parag to the Excellencia series. And I also would like to welcome a known face, Dipika Bisawa, who's quite well known on JHS Excellencia platforms and Knowledge Setu platforms. Dipika is the compliance, learning, and innovation partner at JHS. She's a company secretary by qualification with over 2 decades of experience in regulatory compliance, corporate governance, and risk management. Can we have her introduction, please, on the screen? Having worked with leading organizations including Bank of New York, Nomura, and Reliance, she joined JHS to spearhead comprehensive compliance management solutions, also covering regulatory compliance around insider trading, financial crime, anti-money laundering, and other regulatory requirements. Her responsibilities also include delivering training, learning programs, curated learning programs, conducting quality checks across SOPs, policies, compliance frameworks, uh, developing dashboards around real-time monitoring of compliances, and coordinating with regulatory authorities, auditors, management teams to strengthen compliance and audit processes. Welcome, Dipika. So with this, I'll hand it over to Parag and to Dipika to take it ahead. Thank you.
Good evening, all, and thank you very much, Huzeifa and JHS team, providing me this an opportunity to present a very interesting topic, inside trading and front running before the people. In fact, my relationship with Huzeifa goes back around 2 decades, and he was of some of the few early mentor in my BFSI career, where I learn a lot of important aspect in BFSI segment, especially mutual fund and insurance part, broking part. And today also he has been very kind and humble and always helpful to mentor us. So again, thank you very much. And back to the topic now. I'll share my screen. So, well, inside trading and front running are the two words whenever you heard about that, the boardroom becomes uncomfortable, or any compliance officer, because the way regulator comes up, it's a very heavily, and it has to be that way, because as Uzavasa rightly said, the tone. Even in single incident, creates a reputational risk, and definitely it's a compromise of capital market integrity and capital market ecosystem. So now the issue before us is what is the root cause, and how people can indulge in inside trading or in front running. So, as also highlighted, information. So, root cause of the issue is in information. Now, in any organization, before people indulge in an inside trading, the point starting is, information germination, or it's a UPSI germination from the, like in practical life. If some M&A deal is going to happen, so it's not gonna to happen overnight, right? There are a lot of meetings happening, there is visit happening, discussion are going on, lawyers comes, their fees are paid. Similarly, if some hive off is happening of the division, then again the valuation comes in the picture. So many people come across to this kind of information, and being a listed entity, this information are very sensitive, and to the time it hits to the market, or once on the verge of news becoming public, it will have a positive or negative impact as the case may be. So now, how to protect that? 100% protection is not possible, but at the end of the day, our system and controls are such designed that it will help a business to mitigate the possible risk. End of the day, it is a human being who are carrying this information. If one reads the regulatory judgment, for one may observe that in 50% of instances it was not per se inside trading, it was a procedural violation. So now here, what could be the solution? Well, so the first and the most important part is the awareness about the regulatory implication. One has to have in-house process to train the people what is called the UPSI, what are the sensitivity of this information, and they should be appraised. Look, if this information goes to the public, then it will have an impact on the reputation. There will be a penalty, and one is not, he or she is not supposed to share that information with the public. And it is not only in India, globally also the same problem. The only way, jurisdiction define what is insider trading, and in like another country said non-material NMP and non-material price sensitive information, and the way, but the objective is, ensure the capital market integrity. So, and along with that, if one has observed that nowadays, as Huzaifa said, AI is becoming so important, and regulator has also started using RegTech surveillance mechanism. The recent example, if one would be aware about the 13 August SEBI judgment, when one insider trading happened, where senior manager from finance team said the information, it was actually circumstantial mechanism. One has read the order, and then next day he visited with their in-laws to the one city, and SEBI brought them on the book, and the total profit was only around 16 lakhs plus. And then again another order was issued. End of the day, he let out because some positives were there in his favor. But the here bottom line message is, the integrated market surveillance system is so robust, even if there is a abnormal accumulation of trade against single PAN card number, regulator immediately catches it. So that's a good part of that, and it's AI has definitely enhanced the efficiency and effectiveness of catching such kind of thing. So moving ahead, what we all are gonna to cover today, the obligation one does not know how SEBI catches it. Some of the regulatory jurisprudence available, which is very good insight and help businesses to realign their existing risk and control framework. And the most important takeaway for the board or CXO of the business, including advisors. What all they need to be aware about and they need to have so that any surprise can be avoided. So now before moving ahead, does anyone know what is the difference between insider trading and front running? The back to the point, insider trading UPSI life is a bit longer, whereas in the front running, it's a very fraction of the second one can trade in that. Like some big institutional order comes up, and the guy who is executing the order share the order information with known circle, and they will indulge in the trade. So that's the front running. Definitely, both of the inside trading and front running are covered under separate regulatory mechanism. The driving machinery in inside trading is mostly Section 3, Regulation 3, Regulation 1 and 2 and 4. And in front running, it's a Regulation 4 to Q. If one has gone through the various SEBI judgment, most of the cases people are brought to the book under this regulation. So that's a difference. As far as penalties concerned, in both of the cases, it's 3 times of the profit on plot 25 crore, whichever is higher. Depends on case-to-case basis, along with procedural penalty is a separate. So that's what the main difference between inside trading and front running. Having said that, on lighter note, there is a one saying in Gujarati. Both the regulation are dangerous. So nanu che but nachu che. Both the regulations are small but very dangerous, and implication is very heavy. So one has to be very careful, to ensure that their business is properly protected against any, forthcoming violation. So now, what is the core idea or what is the risk? In majority of the cases, what we have come across, people are not aware about what kind of, applicability to them or from which that regulation is applicable to them. There are, few amendments or recent amendment came up where now UPSI covers 16 type of UPSI, and that is again inclusive list as per SEBI regulation, like result publication, bill restructuring, audit finding, board notice, related party transaction, license cancel, overseas issues, mass layoff, so on and so forth. Similarly, for example, like in mutual fund from 1st November 2024, they are also supposed to maintain structured digital database mandatory. Irrespective of listed or unlisted, they are intermediaries. So regulation 5A to 5H cover the entire machinery of being an intermediary. They have to have structured digital database, which is not in Excel, but it's a software driven with 6 to 7 types of control, where entry cannot be edited. One has to punch the PAN number of the people who is sharing along with the person with whom PAN is shared. So all scheme related UPSI, like some scheme may be going to default if some debt instrument turn out to be non-paying, so on and so forth. Similarly, being in professional, like professional firm, advisor, statutory auditor, internal auditor, tax auditor, forensic accountant, serving to the listed company. So as per SEBI regulation, they are considered as fiduciary, and they have to have a code of conduct framework as defined in Schedule C. It is a very robust and exhaustive framework as per Schedule C, where one has to appoint a designated person being a compliance officer. They have to maintain STD. Then client-wise, partner and team member PAN card has to be punched in there whenever they goes on the engagement, and if they come up with any sensitive observation during audit, let us say, related party transaction where highest turnover is accumulated but not disclosed, in their financial, then some tax demand is coming and some big violation come across. So this kind of thing has to be a part of your STD, and then there has to be also proper, appraisal to the team. Look, you are on listed company engagement, so kindly do not share any information. UPSI, as I earlier said, the training part, mentoring part, grooming part, so that they will not end up indulging in inside training for themselves or passing the information. Again, the penalty part is the same what is applicable to listed company and other entities, like when procedural non-compliance starting from 1 lakh to 1 crore. And for a fiduciary, rather than monitoring term, bigger risk is reputation risk, because whenever SEBI inspection comes, or say SEBI asks to submit this data, and if one is unable to do that, then SEBI judgment is loaded on the website and people come across to know immediately. So so learning on this right is just we need to introspect and ask ourselves if we are touching a listed company by virtue of the any engagement, are we compliant or not? Or think for a moment, if SEBI sends an email to the all fiduciaries or the concerned party, could you please confirm that you have maintained structured digital database for last 5 years and kindly give us access which contains the PAN card of all people on the engagement, let it be due diligence, forensic accounting, internal audit, state audit. So if answer is yes, kudos to them. Otherwise, there is always improvement opportunity, and definitely that is why JHS is also initiating a lot of knowledge awareness session, and this is one of them, and it will be a good take-home learning for the audience. So moving ahead, a basic concept, the insider connected person, UPSI, the trap. The connected person, actually the person who is, associated with the company, and it also include dimmed connected person. So relative of the person, like, promoter, director, key management personnel, auditor, advisor. So these all are insider, and the connected person include dim connected person. Extension to that is, any person who were connected under any capacity, let it be contractual or otherwise, for a previous 6 months, then they are also considered as a connected person. And why this concept is there in regulation? Because if one is caught indulging in insider trading, then regulator has to prove that this person is connected person and he came across to unpublished price sensitive information, and there are few criteria. Once all these conditions are satisfied, then regulator charge the penalty, and accordingly proceeding moves ahead. Unpublished price sensitive information, yes, the information which is not available to normal public but available to insider, the declaration of which affect the price of the security materially. So UPSI, as I said earlier, there are around 16 plus UPSI regulators clearly defined. So, here the interesting point to learn is in India, it is like time and access based UPSI inside trading regulation are operated. Whereas, let us say in US, it's a material non-public price sensitive information, MNPI, where, the regulation operates on outcome based, where it's a classical theory, where, corporate insider traded based on the inside information available, and misappropriation theory, where other than the person of corporate insider obtain the information based on his fiduciary relationship or in breach of the trust. So different jurisdiction has a different regulatory machinery, but end of the day, nowadays good part is all countries have a regulatory tie-up. So whenever there is a cross-border inside trading case happen, or if a cross-border listed or dual country listed company like a ADR, GDR, and Indian companies. So if such kind of instances happen, the healthy parties, there is an exchange of information, and regulatory body are now very efficient to track some transaction which hitherto outside the regulatory net. Again, the learning is, most of the people are under impression that they are not a promoter or management part. So PIT regulation are not applied to them. But it is the wrong thing. As the regulation said, insider is any person who is in possession of UPSI. So it is not necessary one has to be a connected person or a part of the management team. Even is normal employee is part of the engagement if he is in possession of UPSI regulation 3 sub-regulation 2, he is not supposed to trade in that security. So that's some basic concept about uh, what is UPSI? The regulatory architecture, the chart, we need not to go into each and every box, looks very complex and, it is very difficult for anyone to navigate each and every regulation. So definitely nowadays a good part is a lot of AI are there, and definitely the AI which is, offering a solution with guardrail can help business to meet the regulatory requirement along with lot of amendment and judgment. So this is just, overview of Prohibition of Insider Trading, Prohibition of Fraudulent and Unfair Trade Practice 2003, updated in December 25, LODR requirement, Schedule B for listed company, B1 for mutual fund MC, Schedule C for fiduciary, STD penalty. And these all are cross-linked things. So, information asymmetry could happen at any time. And that is why, there has to be robust framework exists to support business to prevent any incidents. Well, so nowadays, how regulator is, monitoring this thing. Uh, Again, as Huzeifa has given the broader view at the beginning of the session, call data record, WhatsApp chat, information asymmetry. So the present process is regulator have a integrated market surveillance system. So, which captures the each pan card wise data, and wherever abnormal pattern happens, it definitely case is, pick up for the investigation, and accordingly, the further evidence are obtained, like we already spoke about HDD, then when UPSI was terminated, all were, aware about this UPSI. Along with that, the learning for business also to have, some kind of control which are generally ignored. For example, dealing room screen access, like, IT people having a privilege access can easily, replicate to screen recording, or they have access to order queue. Because, for example, in mutual fund dealing room, order goes to the broker, and it goes in pieces. It is not in one shot. So there are in queue based on the execution. Then again, that depends what kind of access is given. In addition to that, people used to outsource some, critical IT functions. So whether business has a NDA with those entity, and NDA nowadays is just, formality or document, but the real things to, explain them is, look, these are the UPS and you are not supposed to share this information, or do not allow the access to anyone, who may be indulging in front running or inside trading. The same sort of agreement like, mutual fund or AMC have with fund accountant, uh, an R&D agent kind of things. Another interesting part is, again, now the virtual board meeting is happening. So a lot of UPSI or critical issues are discussed in virtual board meetings. So again, there is a very likelihood that the people, sitting in abroad or at other location may use the information, and there might be, possibility of indulging in inside trading. So again, whenever the solution is, whenever such kind of issues discuss, management may insist personal presence, or, the control or around that environment, so that such kind of, incident can be protected. Very interesting. Now we are going to discuss few more Jewel, which should reside in risk and control matrix, since our title of today's discussion is Insider Trading and Front Running Risk Management. The very interesting part is BBSS, SSB, buy, sell, buy. Again, there is an extension to it. I'll explain in brief. Now, this is a classic front running technique which regulator most often, describes in their judgment, like And what happens in BBAC? First, the front runner buy the script, and then institutional order come up, price shoot up, and front runner sell the script. So the difference is there, profit. Similarly, sorting side, front runner sell, and then the institutional order comes up, so price will further go down, and the front runner will square up their position and earn the significant profit. So it is a classic arrangement between the person who is executing institutional order and the network people along with him who will on another end exercise this activity. And SEBI surveillance system definitely pick up this, and that is why recently we have observed in few judgment regulator has categorically explained this method so that market participant can definitely incorporate in the risk control mechanism and have their in-house control. Another interesting extension to this is BBSB. So again, this is a novice approach and recently found in regulator judgment. The front runner buy the script, then institution will buy it, so price shoot up, and then again front runner sell. Now at the time of sale, front runner will square up and sort the more than what he has purchased. So there will be excess sorting system. Gradually, when price retraces to the normal level, the front runner will again earn in that. So here he will buy earn in short as well as in long. And opposite to that, SSBS. So this is a very important mechanics. And yes, if one has a surveillance system inside their business, it's fine. Otherwise, one can also do in manually. The another interesting risk mechanism and the control one can have there, in business like trade behavior analysis. This was, this is also directly relates to the one of the mutual fund judgment, and we will discuss that in detail. But here, how one can, catch the anomaly stage. For example, let us say, and before moving to the practical part, let me just tell in maximum cases, insider trading or front running happens in mid cap script only. Because in large cap, there are a lot of index balancing in going on, a lot of institutional orders comes up. There are FNO things are there. But in mid cap, there is a clean road. So how to catch? Let us say you are an a compliance officer or a internal auditor or an auditor of one of the mutual fund scheme, and now the fund and manager places an order. So in order to understand whether there is any insider trading front running happened or not, so pull out that script. Let us say 10 days average traded volume is 2 lakhs plus AMC scheme, the mutual fund schemes on order is 50,000. So for the given day, overall volume should be around 250,000. But if it is abnormally high, 340,000 or otherwise, then it is a red flag and it definitely deserve investigation. These techniques one can easily implement even through manual Excel based control, defining some macros across the scheme. So before regulator IMSS catches, it is always advisable to have an in-house control to mitigate this kind of risk. One of the case it is fine, but generally in mutual fund the orders are split into various pieces in order to have a price discovery, and that has to be the way. Otherwise, also it's a new question, and it is spread across the days also. So well, this could be again another javelin, one of the risk and corresponding controls in your RCM, and easily you can perform at your own environment. Again, the one more important point is sometimes even if you are unable to do the volume analysis, another interesting part is even if you see the price chart, and if there is a spurt in price before our order hit the market, that's another indication which tells if something is going on. So that's again you can add if you would like to add. So these are all interesting mechanism which will help you to prevent the further happening of front running, because per se it's a detective control after trade control, or on max you can do on real time basis with 5-10 minutes gap. But yes, before next day happens, you can definitely prevent the incident. Yeah. So now the enforcement reality is the rising investigation. If you see regulator, because of the surveillance technology available, and now it is easy to digital system driven reporting is happening. So a lot of things are automated. So number of investigation is shoot up more than 3 times. It was around 85 in 22-23, and now over 24-25 it reaches to 287 figure. This is from the SEBI annual report figure. And the quantum of penalty, recently we find out, one instance we will discuss that in next slide, 30.56 crore, and if someone is caught in insider trading or front running, maximum penalty is 3 times of the profit or 25 crore, whichever is higher. So trend is clear. It is hitherto the scenario was different. Okay, it is a dry subject, only compliance officer takes care, and once business is taken declaration from employees and punch that trade in the system, and plus you have STD, things are done. That is not the case. The things are lying beyond that, because very interesting thing is none of the employees so much innocent that he will trade with his her or own PAN card or relative's PAN card. Definitely the people who understand inside trading and front end definitely would use someone else PAN card or some another relationship. So I'm not saying that the surveillance software, available in market are no use. Definitely they are useful, so that there is some mental comfort and mental pressure on employee. Look, someone is monitoring my trade, so I need to be careful. But in most of the cases, insider trading happens outside this domain, and for that, as of now, surveillance is either you should have your customized in-house software. You need to do either manually, like we have discussed trade behavior patterns in earlier slide, and then regulator and stock exchange. Yes, stock exchange also has a surveillance system, and many a times they also send notice followed by the SEBI notice. The simple example, I give in one of the company recently happened. They used to discuss very important part with banker, and after meeting is over, the banker traded on next day, and after a few days, they have a received notice from exchange and as well as SEBI. This guy has traded in your script, kindly justify. Now the miss happens from the company was they did not appraise the banker. Okay, look, this is considered as UPSI. You are not supposed to trade in this security, and their entry was also not punching structured digital database. Now responding to one notice itself is a good amount of cost. We all know that. So that is what gravity itself. Only responding to SEBI cost you have. So better to have a in-house good control mechanics, which will help from such a kind of reputation issue. Very recently, this has disturbed the entire mutual fund AMC fraternity. There was an earlier judgment also, but the way this final judgment came up after it routed through SAT. So 30.56 crore was the disgorgement amount, along with 12% interest. Plus individual level penalty, someone was charged 3 crore, someone was charged 1 crore, total all putting together 7.4 crore individual penalty. And they were banned in accessing capital market from 3 to 7 years. Now the interesting part is, how SEBI got it. The dealer who was, the main character in the entire episode, using two mobile phones. One is at home name and another number was saved as ASDFGF. But the interesting part is, the mobile tower location was found at the same location in billing room of the mutual fund. So that was the evidence. Then there are a lot of dots SEBI connected. Fund movement, script, front running. Then whenever dealer used to punch the order, there was a front runner order, and the techniques which we would BBSS, SSB, where so there are 3-4 circumstantial evidence there. Then there was a fund movement through Hawala, through Angadiya rather than Hawala, Angadiya bank account. Putting all this together and followed by the confession from the main person, SEBI has come out, with a very robust order. It's around 154 pages, and I advise or I insist one has to read this if they are in AMC mutual fund, or otherwise also it's a purely on front running, and there is a lot of learning in that. Even the settlement used to happen in 90%, 10%, and the usage of mule account. And the flavor to this entire episode is that someone filed a PL in Bombay High Court uh, to charge the person for under AML with 200 crore penalties. So then Bombay High, it's I think 16 August judgment. Bombay High Court sent back to the SEBI and said it is in SEBI jurisdiction, so we do not want an interfere at this stage. But the message and understanding is look at the gravity of the implication. One instance could spoil the and touch the various segments. So it's definitely affects the investor mindset, business reputation, another SKUs of the business. So that is why it's always advisable to have a proper control mechanism. Its design is periodically operating effectiveness and reporting to the board of director and the senior management in spirit. Another interesting part is, as I said earlier, around 50% of the judgment inside people did not indulge in inside trading at all. But there are procedural violations. Now, let us say March, April, May, so around 42 days, there are 3 SEBI judgment on the merchant banker. So one merchant banker was very new. We all know that how difficult to get even merchant banking license itself. And that guy did not even earn fee more than 284,000 rupees only. But he got due diligence from some outsourced people and did not, in compliance with the merchant banking regulation, no STD maintained. So he was suspended for a 1 month. He could not take a business. Now here the question is not only 1 month suspension, but look at the reputation. Okay, once SEBI penalize you, for violation of the regulation under which you are operating, then it will definitely affect your business. Another interesting case was merchant banker was dormant merchant banker. He wanted to surrender his license in 2020, but some of the reason he was unable to surrender license. So there might be some procedural violation. But regulation said that does not mean you are not supposed to comply regulation. Till the time you are registered as a merchant banker, you have to comply with the regulation. Ultimately, his license was cancelled, but he was brought to the notice. There is a judgment. He has to respond to the SEBI so-called notice, appoint the lawyer, and pass through the all regulatory machinery which applies to them. And the third one is, very renowned merchant banker, and he did not maintain structured digital database at all. So it's a very, very big issue because, if you do not have STD, then there is no way one can trace it, what all kind of UPSI you pass through and what inside trading happened. So the case was settled by 58.5 lakh. Now let us understand here, the settlement mechanism per se is not exit route. Whoever wants to settle their case with the regulator, there is a separate regulation, and that case go to the SEBI High Power Committee. High Power Committee evaluates the merit of the case, understand whether there was any investor loss, there was any intentional compromise of capital market integrity, or this is a procedural violation. Looking at the various factors, they take a decision, and then only one is eligible to, go to the settlement route. Otherwise, they will be penalized as per the regulatory normal provision, which is applicable to the people who are not under settlement mechanism. So the learning here is, in none of these cases inside trading or front running happen, but because of violation, they has to face the regulation. So now the third line is structured digital database. It is, as I said, the regulation 3, sub-regulation 5 and 6. It has to be maintained by all applicable entity. It is it is in easy language says server of the all UPSI. Again, here the risk is we all need to have access. If someone take, snap of the structured digital database, pass on to someone else. That's again is a big risk. So it's not only IT login, but environment control also needs to be taken care of. There are another two judgment where, in one of the judgment, it is a March 26 judgment. MD has to settle case with SEBI by paying 23.42 lakh penalty. The issue was there were only two UPSI entry found in SDD, and rest of the entries were not entered at all. Like listed company, every quarter there is a result. There are people involved in that, in addition to other corporate actions. So those all entries has to reside in your STD. But in this case, during SEBI inspection, only two entries were found for the entire year. So that was the one judgment, and another is very blue chip company in a year back in I think 05 judgment, where also CFO personally paid penalty of around 25 lakhs, and total company level penalty was around 1 crore for the violation. So the message over here is ignorance of law is not an excuse, as we all know from the beginning of our careers. So very, very critical to follow the regulatory requirement, and the gaps which one needs to address is, as we discussed yesterday itself, there is a specified software. So, maintaining in Excel or backdated is not acceptable. Even if you forget to complete the PAN number, if someone, coming on board, then it is the duty of compliance officer to update the, STD whenever UPSI is coming connected person profile. Then these are again, the message from which we have, gone through the previous slide of the various judgment. So these are again the potential risk, and one needs to, map the controls around this area. So now, this is the very, very important slide when it reaches to boardroom. Now here boardroom is not only boardroom of the company, but it is a boardroom of AMC mutual fund, and even is a boardroom of the fiduciary like consultant, auditor, forensic accountant, everyone. Regulation 9A, Regulation 3 and 4 casts clear responsibility on board of director and audit committee. Annually review whether company has a design control framework in place, it is operating properly or not. Now think for a minute, if one is on the board of the company being an independent director, and he has signed the minutes of the meeting or attendance in the minutes, and 2 years later SEBI found that this company did not have structured digital database at all, or it was in Excel. So what is going to happen? It's a pure ignorance case. There are solutions to it always, because regulation itself says annual certification by compliance officer, and if someone is non-compliant, then quarterly by external person. So it is always advisable to appoint independent, auditor or consultant to review this, submit this report before the board, or if you are in the board, always advise and get it reviewed independently. Ask the few questions: what is the quality of our STD, whether it allows to change the entry, how many records are available. Regulation 3536 clearly tell 336 says it has to be maintained up to 8 years, or if you are under SEBI proceeding, the later period, whichever is later. So one needs to have defensible framework to support when inspection knocks off. And think for a moment, if SEBI asks the company to submit all this requirement as I told earlier, then what would be the evidence available? So time is not gone yet, but definitely since we are aware of that, we had to address that. The penalty which I already spoke for procedural violation up to 1 crore, from 1 lakh to 1 crore, and insider in front running 3 times on 25 crore. So what is the solution now? As I said earlier, there are two solutions. In order to ensure whether your insider trading and front running framework is very robust to meet the regulatory requirement and ready for SEBI inspection, which generally comes every 2 years in mutual fund, or sometimes longer or short time based on case to case basis, and you have a open risk being mitigated. Like as we discussed in beginning, information itself is a problem, the root cause of all information. So like whether MIS team is aware about that or not, there is a control to take PAN card and punch in that or not, whether there is a training happening or not. These are some example. followed by BBSS, SSBB pattern, behavioral analysis. So your advisor will help you to design and implement this framework, and periodically uh, that form will come and perform the testing. Another solution number 2 is the why I build a platform InsiderTrade.AI RegTech Intelligence. As of now, it is live with listed company, main board SME, fiduciaries, auditor, consultant, lawyer, advisor, mutual fund, AMC, PMSAF, and merchant banker. So that gives ready-made end-to-end framework, and definitely with good mentorship of Huzeifa also, that always encourage us to come up with the novice product in the market. And this platforms is readily available entity-wise, inside trading and front-ending compliance framework, along with the let us say mutual fund around 35 plus unique risk along with control. And there is also dedicated, chatbot. It's a restrictive agentic AI, unlike like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Grok, or Claude. They are general AI. Their answer would be general. Here, the RAG is dedicated to inserting the front running with proper guardrails. So if someone will ask X script, what is the inside trading I can do, it will straight away say no, it is violation of regulation. But if you ask what is the definition of UPSI or what compliance I need to do being a fiduciary or a listed company, it will answer you. So well, that's the solution number 2. So takeaway for the boardroom is, yes, the PIT reaches is wider than the promoter if you are in possession of UPS or insider. SEBI has now, improved their investigation mechanism, and there are IMSS tools which we already discussed, and there are a lot of evidence, circumstantial evidence plus check and meta evidence. Based on that, people are charged. HDD, we had a detailed discussion and we fix it later. It's not an excuse. Reliability as personal level, as we discussed, Regulation 9A of SEBI PIT Regulation, Board of Director Audit Committee has to ensure there is a defensible documented framework exists to support that they have reviewed it. So that's what, and yes, protection is evidence of diligence, may check and data and current. So that's what I have to say. And definitely, before SEBI knocks the door, one has to ensure their house in order. That's done from my side. Yeah, I now request Dipika to take it over.
Thank you. Thank you, Parag sir. We have just heard about the insider trading, front running, what it is, and the key regulatory provisions, plus the recent cases, which were astonishing. I mean, this was shocking. We recently had so many cases, and the penalties, and what exactly SEBI is looking at. So I don't want to repeat any of that, but instead, what to take. Okay, Zishan, can you please play my presentation? Okay, instead of that, I want to take this discussion one step further, because in my experience, the difficult question is, yeah, perfect. The question is not that what does PIT prohibits, but the difficult question here is, do we, or maybe do we have the PIT policy? But the difficult question here is, how do an organization actually prevent the PIT violation? And because having a policy is one thing, but when a sensitive transaction is happening at 7 o'clock in the evening, 5 people are in the WhatsApp group and 2 external advisors have been added in, and then one designated person wants to trade the next morning. Then what happens? The real compliance test, right? So the next 10 minutes, I want to look at the PIT from the perspective of execution. Who does what, where the control can fail, and what the company should actually be able to demonstrate. So next slide, please. The first thing I want to establish is that insider trading compliance is not the compliance officer's job alone. Yes, the compliance officer and the company secretaries, we sit at the center of the framework. But think about where UPSI is actually originating. It could originate from the board. They are discussing, they're sitting at the high level, so they are discussing something. It could be with the finance, because your quarterly results or maybe annual results are going to be out, your profits and losses and whatever your progress during the year, that's going to come out. Or maybe it's with the HR because there's a restructuring happening in the senior management. So it could be with the M&A team also. That's a very common example because M&A is considered as the most critical UPSI. And so if the business doesn't identify and protect the information, the compliance officer alone cannot control something that they don't even know that exists. And that's why I like this simple statement. The compliance officer owns the framework, the business owns the information. The board provide the oversight, the compliance officer builds and monitor, he can do that monitoring. Um, the business teams manage the information, the designated persons have individual responsibilities, and the technology helps us create the control, importantly, the evidences. So tomorrow, if regulator comes, IT is the first person we reach out to. We check all the records which are available with us. Next slide, please. Yeah. Now let's come to the role that's closest. This is very close to my profession and my heart. The company secretary in the compliance officer's role. I would describe this role as a control tower. Why? Because the compliance officer sits at the juncture of the information. They deal with people, senior management. They deal with they know the trading. The request come to them. The regulatory requirements, the most important. They are aware of the regulation, what regulator is expecting, what is written in the regulation. And the role starts before the trade. So when sensitive event is developing, the compliance officer should be asking what information is being generated. Could this constitute a UPSI? Or who actually needs the access? And who do we restrict, whose access should be restricted here? And how do we record it? So because recording is the most critical part, like I mentioned that whenever regulator comes, records they play the important role. Once the information is UPSI, okay, now it's decided that this is going to be this is a UPSI and it's going to, fluctuate the market. So the focus shifts to control. That's when we check the applicable restrictions, the pre-clearance requirement, the declarations, and other controls. And after the transaction, we are not finished. We need to update our records, review disclosures, look at the exceptions, and retain evidences. So the role isn't simply someone submitted the form and I reviewed it and then I approved it and I filed it. No, it's much more bigger than that. The compliance officer should be thinking, can I prevent the violation? Can I detect the violation? And if somebody asks me tomorrow, maybe regulator wakes up and asks me, will I be able to demonstrate these controls, whatever I have? I have the PIT policies, but is it actually working? That we'll see on the later slides. Yeah, so moving on to the next slide. Oh, this is the most interesting slide. And these are very common examples which we have seen in our day-to-day life. You must have heard it somewhere. If you're dealing with the insider trading is applicable to your firm, then the first one is, I didn't think this was a UPSI. Wow. So what's the issue here? The information identification problem is here. Then secondly, I only shared it with someone who could help. So especially if someone is in IT, this happens with IT, maybe HR or someone, whoever, intermingle, the departments are interlinked to each other. So I shared it with someone, who I needed the help. Maybe simply fixing the PPT, maybe simply fixing your IT infra or your system. There's an issue, your system is crashing and you inadvertently shared it, or maybe you purposely did that. It's a problem. Then my spouse made the trade, not me. This is the classic example. I've been in the firm for 15 years. I've been, I have been in the compliance. So I've heard this many, many times. This is not my trade. This is my wife's account. I was in Bank of New York and it's a US company. So 50% time we used to hear this word only, that I'm not trading in my account. It's my wife. She's trading. So you can restrict her. No, there's no escape. You are liable. Um, but the trading window was open. Trading window open does not mean that you trade in UPSI. But the compliance officer approved my trade. The compliance officer approved your trade doesn't. This is a very big misconception that if it is approved by the compliance, it doesn't remove your underlying responsibility. You are still responsible because you are holding the UPSI. You're holding you can. Tomorrow, if you deal and the market fluctuates, or if you take unwanted advantage of this information, no, you're still responsible, even if the request is approved by the compliance. So what does this all tell us? Many PIT violations don't necessarily start with somebody saying, I'm going to violate the law. No, it doesn't happen that way. They often start much earlier with the poor information management, poor communication, understanding, lack of understanding of the controls, whatever your firm has. Or many a times people don't read policies. Compliance prepares the policies, it's uploaded in the system, it's uploaded everywhere in the world, but people don't read it because it's a 10-page or 20-page document. So they often start the violation often starts much earlier than that. Let's see what's next. Yeah. Next slide, please. Okay, let's take an hypothetical example. Let's make it more practical now. So on Monday, what happened? M&A teams, M&A discussion begins. So now tomorrow, I'll give you an example. So JHS plans to acquire some other company. So this happened on Monday. And then Tuesday, the transaction becomes more concrete and sensitive. Or maybe some XYZ ABC company wants to buy a XYZ company. And Monday they decide, the Monday the discussion started, and the Tuesday it becomes actual sensitive. Okay. Now Wednesday, suddenly the circle expands. The WhatsApp group is created, the management knows, the finance knows, legal knows, external advisors knows, because they are advising you. Definitely they know. And on Thursday, one person wakes up, he says, I want to trade. Oh, now what? Now you ask yourself, where did the pit actually started? The compliance begin? Is it on Thursday when the person raised the request with the compliance team? No, it started way back. It started on Monday itself. The so the excuse me. So what should the compliance officer be doing through this journey? So moving on to the next slide, please. So he should first identify what information are we dealing with. He should restrict who actually needs to know. So the information that is UPS marked as a UPSI should be shared only on a need to know basis, not with everyone. Record who has the information, what's his profile, and how he can share it. So whatever trade, transaction, request, approval, everything, the documentation, the SDD part that comes into picture here, and then monitor the relevant person, whoever is subject. So suppose finance team is there and your company's annual reports are going to be out, your financials are going to be out. So in finance division, you need to monitor who has this information, and the transaction of these people should be restricted. The control should be there. And finally, review. Can I demonstrate this framework operated properly? Tomorrow, if the regulator is coming to me, will I be able to demonstrate that, okay, these 1, 2, 3, 10 steps I've taken? So will I be able to demonstrate that? So the key message here is that the PIT compliance begins when the sensitive information enters the organization and not when the trade request is arrived. So like I mentioned in my example, that the PIT compliance become applicable, or it began on Monday, not on Thursday when the person raised a request to compliance team. Next slide, please. So now what does the compliance officer do? And that begins the accountability. Let's that brings us to the accountability part. If something goes wrong, we shouldn't have a situation where everyone points out towards the compliance officer. The board has a governance responsibility. The compliance officer has a responsibility for operating the compliance framework. The business head has a responsibility to identify, appropriately handle the sensitive information. The designated person has as an individual. So suppose in the finance team or M&A team, there are a lot of people. They also have the responsibility before trading, and the employee receiving this confidential information. So whoever is in that group, whoever is receiving the information is responsible. And technically, technology team is definitely, they have important role to play here because they have entire data, entire cycle, what is happening, where is happening. So they play very crucial role here, ensuring that they need to ensure that the access and activity and everything is properly restricted, or like how the importance of IT team. So I would put it in a very simple. I would put it very simply. The board ask. Okay, moving on to the next slide, please. So if I were to advise, or maybe advising a listed company, maybe, or so basically what I would do, I would ask the board members to answer these questions. So if these questions are answered properly, you're fully compliant, or maybe your controls are working. So what these questions are, not just theoretically, but the practically, is this happening? I would want evidences. Who has access to UPSI, and why do they have access to it? Is the access recorded? Is the STT updated? Are the trading window controls actually effective? Are the trades being monitored? Are disclosures being captured? Are exceptions documented? Are people actually trained that they are not supposed to trade in these when they are in receipt of this sensitive information? And finally, if SEBI asks us tomorrow, show me how your your PIT control is working, can we demonstrate that? And this is a very important distinction. There's a difference between we comply and we can demonstrate we comply. Am I right? So we comply, okay, tick in the box, we're doing 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, and actually demonstrating that. In the policy, we have 50 things, but are we following those 50 things? Are there any restricted list? Are there any blackout periods? Is there any blackout list available with the firm? Are there any systems in place which can restrict the trading window, or maybe trades of these employees who has the access, or are they getting immediately reported to compliance? These are very critical questions which we need to consider, because I'm reiterating, having policy in place, it's just a Word document, is not enough. Next slide, please. Yeah. So let's go to the next level now. I look at PIT compliance as in 4 stages. For me, first is documented. So do we have the policy? Yes. Second is implemented. Is it implemented? Is it circulated to everyone? The process is actually being followed. Then third one is monitored. So we are not just assuming that people are following the process, we are checking. And the fourth one is the demonstrable. So again, do we have the evidences? Is our records are maintained properly or not? And I think that's the maturity level organization should aim for. Because having a beautifully drafted policy sitting on the website does not necessarily mean that you have a strong PIT framework. The question is, does it work when the real transaction happens? Isn't it interesting that you have the policy, but is it working when you have the situation, when somebody's trading? That's a real test. So next slide, please. So if the management if the management wants to test if their PIT framework is actually working. I will take this 5 test. I will check this 5 areas rather. So policy. Is my policy updated? It should not happen that my policy was last updated in 2019 and now we are in 2026. So no, it's a big no. So my policy should be updated for 2026, no matter what. There are a lot of amendments coming up. Are they captured in my policy? People. Have we correctly identified the people who have access to sensitive information? Or it's going to everyone? Or the process? Are the trading windows, pre-clearances, and disclosure processes actually being followed? Because I am an insider. I have the information. I did not report it. I traded, but I did not raise the request in the system at all. Then what happens? It is a violation, right? So these are the things which a board member, as a board member, because ultimate responsibility lies with the board members. So they should consider all these things. And finally, the evidences. They should understand that each and every evidence, each and every record, each and every document is critical, and it's extremely important to have it in place. This is where a periodic PIT health checkup. You can call it a health checkup for your company. So if you are a board member, just ask these questions to your team member or to your respective teams. So is this happening, especially with the compliance team? You can check. Because the objective isn't to wait for the incident, like Parag sir mentioned. The objective is to identify the weakness before the regulator does. So we should be ahead of the regulator rather than regulator coming and telling us, oh, somebody traded from your company and this has happened. So rather than that, we should be well aware. We should be well ahead of the regulator. So moving on to the next slide, please. Yeah. So again, it's the same thing which I mentioned earlier. We should have the policies. Are they appropriate? The people, are they do they have the access, or their whoever is there, whoever has the access, are they monitored? Are there proper restriction put on them? The technology, the procedures, and finally the evidences. So this is where the periodic health checkup lies for the PIT. Next slide, please. So let me close this with one thought. The PIT compliance is a system, not a document. The policy is only the starting point. You need the right procedures. Then you need people who understand their responsibilities. You need technology to support and control. And you need evidences to demonstrate those controls actually operated. And this is also where I believe the role of a company secretary is evolving. We are not only interpreting regulations or ensuring the filings are completed, we are increasingly becoming the people who help organization to translate regulatory requirement into operating controls. So when we talk about PIT compliance, the question should not simply be, do we have a PIT policy? The better question is, if something sensitive happens tomorrow, is the organization actually ready? So with that note, I would like to close my presentation and thank you, everyone. So I would like to open the floor for questions now. So are there any questions in the chat box, Zishan?
There are few in the chat box, so if you want to take that up, Sharma, can you please?
Yeah,
if
sure.
you can see the chat box.
Yeah, okay, I'll read it out. So when an abnormal pattern is observed in the share price of any company, how does the regulator investigate the entire trail of information and come to the conclusion on who shared UPSI and who traded, and does the guy trading has any relation to the one who shared the UPSI? So Parag sir.
It's a very practical question, nicely articulated. But the regulation clearly mentioned that first there has to be a connected person and there has to be a sharing of UPSI. Now, just because there is a trade accumulation around one PAN card number or few PAN card number, that does not qualify, classic case of insider trading and front running. So based on this trading pattern, then regulator also investigate the role of that person. They also have access to WhatsApp chat. So just because there is a trading happen, person is not for even there is a Supreme Court judgment saying someone is just staying nearby you does not hold you responsible that that person indulge into insider trading based on the UPSI as given. So onus is on the regulatory for unconnected person to establish there was a connection between two, and for connected person, onus is on the connected person to establish they were not in possession of UPSI. So yes, here in this case, it is on the regulator to prove that. Now there are various surveillance mechanisms, as I mentioned. If regulator is able to establish the relationship between the person who indulge in the trading vis-a-vis the company in which connected person is working in any of the capacity, then only that person can be held responsible. Yeah. There is
Yeah,
one more question, Deepika. If you want, I can.
Yeah. Yes,
Uh,
please.
Yeah, again, on lighter note, even front runner are sophisticated and front runner in technology as well. So very good question. And there are few more techniques, layering and synthetic exposure, which I have not covered because of paucity of time. But absolutely, a regulator themselves has black box system where they invite people to experiment their AI model to help them. But presently, even IMSS itself is so robust and fantastic, unless the insider themselves are not sophisticated to trade through layering technology or sophistication or cross jurisdiction, they will not be able to successful. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Parag sir. So there are no more
Thank you, ma'am.
questions. So I would like to invite Jamal sir for vote of thanks.
Thank you all for joining today's session. A big thank to our speakers, Parag and Dipika, for such a knowledgeable session on SEBI's PIT regulation, UPSI framework, the red flags that we should look for, and the relevant examples and case studies. Please give a big round of applause for our speakers, Parag and Dipika. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.